crisis gives opportunities. If you are on the sea, on a boat and in the storm, you have to keep your eye on the horizon where you want to get out. And you have to sail through the storm. And we are still in the middle of a storm. The wind is coming from different directions and sometimes it's turning. What I think we all doing is really truly looking on the horizon and making really sure that in 1, 2, 3, 4 years we get out. We know where we want to go to and we have to stay strong in the storm and get through. So when the business comes back, we are ready to get our planes back in the air, to serve our customers.
Mein Name ist Bastian Timm. Herzlich willkommen zum Corporate Finance Award Podcast der Börsenzeitung in Partnerschaft mit PwC. Lufthansa gewinnt in diesem Jahr in der Kategorie Debt nach mehreren erfolgreichen Refinanzierungsmaßnahmen. Unter anderem der 20%igen direkten Beteiligung des Bundes als neuer Ankeraktionär. Klar ist, der Deal hat sich für beide Seiten gelohnt. Lufthansa bekam wieder Auftrieb und Zugang zum Kapitalmarkt und der Bund steht mit seinem Aktieninvestment dick im Plus. Ende April konnte ich mit Lufthansa CFO Remco Steenbergen über die Herausforderungen sowie die Folgen der Corona-Krise für die Kranich Airline sprechen.
Remco, it is a futuristic and nice interview location here with an impressive view on the runway behind you, but it also shows how dire the situation somehow is. Now we can see an airplane behind you landing, I guess, but normally it's very, very busy. I know this here. So how would you describe at the moment Lufthansa's position? How would you sum it up?
When you look at a year ago when the COVID hit a society, of course Lufthansa was severely impacted, correct? The industry, but particularly Lufthansa. And you cannot imagine how it is from one day to another to lose virtually all your income and to be able then to continue with a very successful operation which Lufthansa always had. So in that sense, it's really with sadness sometimes I look at the runway, but equally when planes are coming, I think many people here have a big smile because things are picking up and we hope that will happen soon again.
So there's some hope in the air.
Of course there's always hope and we know that the COVID vaccination program, although going very slowly, we have to say in Europe, it's progressing, correct? And the success in many countries is also being seen in terms of that it actually works. So with that we have a lot of hope that soon we can all travel again. And of course that would be fantastic news for Lufthansa.
Right. So if we sum it up, can you say no starts, no money, or is it too short-sighted?
Of course, when you are in a crisis situation, you try to limit your expenses as much as you can. That is the thing you can do when you have no income. And the second thing, of course, ensure that you have the financial liquidity, availability to get through the crisis. And in that sense, also all the work which has been done on the finance side of the company is extremely important.
Right. If you allow, I will ask a personal question. You just mentioned the COVID crisis, of course, and I can imagine there are easier positions that you could have taken than the CFO position of Lufthansa in this crisis situation. Also then the German government took a 20% stake in the company, so there are many surrounding factors that didn't really make Lufthansa super sexy. So why did you choose to become CFO of Lufthansa then?
I think there are a couple of things. One, Lufthansa, of course, as a brand and a company is absolutely fantastic. And over more than 30 years, I worked and lived in many countries of the world, and I used Lufthansa as a customer, so I have experienced it from the other side. I'm a finance person through in the bones, right? And having the opportunity and also the honor of Lufthansa choosing me to help to get out of the crisis, I think you need to get maximum out of life, correct? So if you have that opportunity, although it's an enormous challenge, I think that is something which, how strange it might sound, a great opportunity actually to help getting Lufthansa out of this crisis. And that motivates me incredibly.
But it also somehow is a mammoth task compared to what you did before?
Yes, and exactly that is something in life, I think, if you try to get the maximum out of your abilities and you have an opportunity as well and the trust from the company in choosing you, why would you not do that? I think it's absolutely stupid actually if you don't do that.
I mean, you could have an easy life, going for skiing in Switzerland, enjoying the nice chocolate there and other pleasure.
But I think the opportunity to contribute something in your life, and for me as a finance professional, this is something I believe I can help in contributing. And if the company has to believe that I can do that, that's I think says enough. I think it says enough.
Got it.
No.
Yes. So hence you're just sitting here and it's just the two of us discussing. Let's discuss your master plan. So with regard to the German stake, the government stake 20%, and the possible refinancing on the capital market, what do you plan?
Let me first say that, of course, last year, just before the summer, I think we are extremely grateful that the German government provided with the stabilization fund, because that allowed, on a moment where the company was very short of liquidity, allowed to create time to get organized itself, right? And we are very thankful for that, but it equally comes with an enormous obligation, because it's state money, it's taxpayers' money, and any company has to pay that back as soon as possible, so that obligation is also there for Lufthansa. So clearly the agenda is getting ourselves on the mid and the long term reorganized, so re-strengthen the balance sheet, become profitable again, and of course pay back the stabilization funds as fast as we can. And that is what is of course the highest on the agenda, not only for me, but for the full board.
Also because the interest rates are significantly higher than what you pay on the capital market.
Yes, of course, when you have more debt, you pay more interest, correct? That is very logical. But at the end, you need a strong balance sheet, correct? You need to have sufficient liquidity if future crisis comes. So we're looking at this. You need a funding of the organization about equity and debt, which is again healthy, again in a long-term structure. And currently, of course, we have too much debt and too little equity. We have to restore that, and with profitability and with restructuring our balance sheet over time, it allows us to get back in shape, which makes the company again ready for investing in the future and be as successful as it has been before the crisis.
And when do you see this happening? Because at the moment, I guess you're still burning money, so up to 350 million euros per month. So when do you see profit coming again to this company?
I would say if you are on the sea on a boat and in the storm, right, it's not the idea just to look 10 meters ahead. You have to keep your eye on the horizon where you want to get out, and you have to sail through the storm. And we are still in the middle of a storm. There's no doubt. But what I think we're all doing is really truly looking on the horizon and making really sure that in 1, 2, 3, 4 years we get out. And that planning is important. With the liquidity situation of the stabilization fund of the government, but also the subsequent own transactions we did, a convertible bond and then 2 other euro bonds, one in December and one in February, we got back on the capital market itself, get more funding and liquidity, and there's much more work to be done, there's no doubt. But clearly with the eye on the horizon, we know where we want to go to, and we have to stay strong in the storm and get through. And many people have been in storms and got out of it. I'm sure we will do the same.
So it's unfair to ask, when will you reach the horizon?
I think we all see that the vaccinations are starting up. So we hope at some point will be. Some people say, hey, in the summer everything is open, perhaps we're a bit later. I don't have that crystal ball, but I don't think we can organize ourselves exactly on the week. I think it's extremely important to be flexible as an operation. So when the business comes back, we are ready to get our planes back in the air, to serve our customers, and to get all the good service we are doing back organized, and equally from a financial perspective, to be organized if it takes a couple of months longer. Perfectly fine. If it goes faster, we can all organize ourselves, but to be ready to go into the capital markets on the right moment in time when it comes out, when it gets better.
Right. I also read that you're a very innovative person, also with regard to financing. So what about potential sell of AirPlus, for instance, or a stake of Lufthansa Technik to generate more money? Is this an option?
As I said before, I think it's extremely important to be prepared and to have all options laid out and have different scenarios, because we don't know the future, correct, in this. And the storm can go still from different angles. And there are different ways, correct? There are different ways to finance on the bond market, there are different ways on the equity market. We have said indeed that we are looking at the divestments of AirPlus and LSG outside Europe. LSG Europe was sold last year. But also have to look at the right timing for this to get the right value. And all these are like little puzzle pieces, which depending on the circumstances, we will execute upon.
So you have a master plan.
So there's some different scenarios. I would say a master plan, if you define a master plan, different scenarios, absolutely yes. But it's impossible to say there's one scenario because the wind is coming from different directions and sometimes it's turning. So for us it's the most important to be prepared for a scenario of events and to be able then, with the eye on the horizon, whatever way the boat needs to go, to cruise where we need to go.
Right. But now here you steer maybe 700 airplanes. That's a difference.
Yeah, luckily we have brilliant pilots and brilliant crews who can do that very well.
That's good. So let's focus more on the transaction for why Lufthansa received the award. So what were the reasons for this combined transaction? So the government bailout program and then the refinancing, of course. If you sum it up, and then also if you can maybe elaborate a bit on how you observed it from the sideline, because when all this happened, you were not the CFO.
So last year, very closely from the sideline, of course, I have followed what happened. But of course, the first the bailout program or the stabilization fund of the government was clearly because of the liquidity crisis the company was in, and there was a program rising of debt support and of different equity support measures. But subsequently, as I said before, this is a temporary package. It allows time, but it has to be repaid. It's also not coming for free. We pay interest on these loans. But it allows us time to actually go back to the capital market and get ourselves refinanced. And in that context, you have to see the subsequent transactions. And it's very important then what kind of transactions, in which order. And again, at that time, the team has done a fantastic job to make sure they're prepared to choose which instruments. So when the market was actually turning more positive in November, to come out with the convertible bond, and then subsequently in December when the market was also still very good for us, to come up with the Euro bond. And in February we have issued a record bond. Then I was of course here on board, and which also allowed us to pay the KfW loan of 1 billion, actually to repay already this loan, which is the first start of the repayment of the full government package over the years to come.
And one also has to mention that the first bond was oversubscribed, I think, 6 times. So huge success in this situation for Lufthansa.
It clearly shows that the investors have the trust that once this crisis is over, Lufthansa will get back on its feet, that it has a future where they can make money again, and therefore that investments in the debt instrument is actually a good thing to do. So it gives us a lot of pride and a lot of say base to further work on, because again we're still in the middle of the storm, as you said. We're not out of it, but of course this trust from the market in us allows us to further build on in the coming times.
But also, of course, the true side of the story is without the government bailout program, there would have been no way to achieve a comeback on the capital market, right?
And that's why I said in the beginning, we're extremely thankful that the German government has done that for Lufthansa. There was a liquidity crisis. If the German government wouldn't have supported, the situation would be very different, absolutely.
A very complex situation with Heinz-Hermann Thiene, who now passed away, but he also played a critical role, right, as a major investor in Lufthansa before the German government came on board, right? So how did you observe this scenario from the sideline?
I think also it's if such an investor wants to put 10% of the share capital in the company, of course it's also something we have to be very thankful, correct? That he supported that. In that sense, it gave a clear trust view on the company. What I understood is that he absolutely really thought Lufthansa is a great company, and in that background also gave it support. So also there are many thanks on our end. Yeah.
So looking back, what do you think? Can you name 3 critical success factors that all this worked out in the end?
A couple of things. I think timing. So to really make sure you first prepare well and you're ready when the market comes. Second, of course, is that you need to communicate with the investor community. The situation of the crisis, the situation of the company. As you described, how does the How does the horizon look like? What are we doing to become, again, profitable over time? That it's well understood and that communication translates actually in trust and why investors want to buy in us. And of course the team internally, so the third T I would actually say of timing and then the teams is that we have really good people on board who really know how to organize the financing of the company. But it's actually the team together building on each other in these very difficult circumstances which change very fast, timing essential, working 24/7 around the clock and building on each other to make that work. Also seeing that from the sideline last year and then of course coming on board in January, that is really good to see, and of course a big contributor to the success. And in that sense, the team, I would like to really congratulate the team for doing such a fantastic job, and then also from having done that I can sit here today with you, with regards to the recognition you have given Lufthansa.
And how difficult is it for you personally then to onboard as CFO and then not being able to meet the full team? So it's more or less a virtual onboarding, I guess, in a new work environment, so it's also not the easiest, I guess, in this situation, the storm you just described.
Yeah, I think the organization has been extremely helpful to onboard me very quickly. I've been here still Monday to Friday every week since January. Of course, all within the COVID rules, extremely well tested. I'm probably one of the best tested persons around. But with that, also all the different team members, they came into the office, we met. A large part, of course, is working from home. But with that in the rotation, of course, we could still organize ourselves very well to move on. And it's not the ideal onboarding, correct? Because you want to see all the people and you can meet. But I think we have been able, in the circumstances, to do very well.
If we speak about the COVID crisis and the impact, which drivers do you see once, if we speak about the post-COVID period, which drivers do you see that maybe positively influence your comeback, let me say it like this?
I think a crisis, and that's also when you asked me at the beginning, why do you join? A crisis gives opportunities, right? So I believe in a crisis starting to contribute and don't look at the downside, but then look at the opportunities. Right. is essential as a starting point. That counts also for Lufthansa, because if you come better organized out of the crisis, if you have faster or stronger balance sheet, if your investments are really focused, if the teams are really committed to build on the future, you can outperform competition, and that way do a better job. And of course, the airline industry has been severely impacted. Not only us, all airlines in the world have been significantly impacted. And in that sense, it gives you an opportunity to try to do better than the others, and then come out of the crisis stronger.
And I'm sure you and the whole board hopes to see lots of catch-up effects, people willing to fly away and so desperate to go on holidays again, because so many people had to sit at home for over a year now.
I think you must have seen as well with your family and friends. I think when the opportunities are to go on a nice vacation again, I think many people are really love to go. So at least that's what I hear, and I would also expect. So I think also when it all opens up again, I would recommend people to book very, very fast because it might get booked up much faster than you think. And on the other hand, it is also on the business side. Right? If you haven't seen your customers, your suppliers, your teams around the world for a year and a half, I think many would be interested to go out again and organize. So this might come back much faster. We have, of course, to see where it will end after this catch-up again, but a catch-up on this would be quite logical. Of course, we need to organize ourselves that it's all safe, and the company is really, of course, investing a lot, correct, in making sure that the processes on board are as safe as possible, and I suppose that also in the way of testing or vaccination, that it becomes easier without all the quarantine requirements, and that it becomes a pleasure again to step in our planes and to do your family visit, to go on a beautiful holiday, or do your business travel. And then hopefully we will see here many more planes coming up, and it will be hard to have the interview here because of all the busy airport.
Right. in general terms, speaking about how COVID also changes the business world, and you mentioned efficiency. Are you not somehow a bit afraid that with regard, for instance, to the business seats that bring lots of money to you, maybe this changes? Because I mean, I'm speaking with lots of corporations, and they also, they say maybe we make more hybrid events, so some will travel, others will stay and take part virtually. What are your thoughts about this?
There's certain realities in the market, and this what you describe is certain reality. I think many of the statistics show that in 23-24 expect that the corporate market will reduce by 10 to 20% versus the 2019 level. And in that respect, we have also to organize ourselves differently. And that comes to the kind of planes we are using, the seat arrangements in the plane, perhaps have less business class, but have more premium economy class, perhaps more seats on the plane, more efficient planes. And in that sense, find ways to deal with the changing environment. But equally to also be prepared. And there are, of course, a lot of partnerships we're flying with around the world, and the connections here from both Frankfurt, from Munich, from Vienna, Zurich, of course, and in Brussels, of course, a tremendous network which it has, in which we can also further optimize.
So you still see this huge trend of mobility not completely changing. Let's put it like this in the post-COVID world.
Yeah, of course, requirements. So in business travel, what you say, the video conferencing, of course, for certain things, video conferencing can be used. There's a lot of discussion on the short distance. Can you use the train instead of the plane on short distance? Also thinking about CO2. I think all fair things we would have to change our business model with, and we will be doing so. But it doesn't mean you can't be a successful company in that respect. Still, people need to travel around the world, correct? You can go by boat. It takes a bit longer than by plane, and there are not many other options at this moment than use the plane. But within that environment, of course, we have to make sure that we do that in the best possible way, that also from a CO2 perspective, we will build on our future, our footprint over time. We oblige that to the society, we oblige that to our customer, oblige that to ourselves. And these are things which society is changing, and the company has to change with it. And I think it's prepared to do so.
So there are many issues, right, on the table for you that you have to handle at the same moment in this current situation, right? Also how to generate money in the short term, and also to earn money again maybe in 4 or 5 years, right?
I hope it's a bit sooner than 4 to 5 years, but absolutely you're right, yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Das war die letzte Folge unseres Podcasts Nachgefragt anlässlich des diesjährigen Corporate Finance Awards. Alle insgesamt 6 Folgen, unter anderem mit den DAX 30 CEOs von Deutsche Börse, Deutsche Telekom und Siemens, finden Sie auf Apple Podcasts, Spotify und allen anderen Streaming-Plattformen.